This story's been floating around a couple of days, and I bit on it. And when I first saw today's headline, I thought it would be funny, lighthearted story. And I'd write a few jokes and light jabs at those involved, and we'd move on. But man, was I wrong. So buckle up, y'all. This Louisiana law enforcement rat hole runs deeper than the headline implies. AP News correspondent Haya Panjwani reported that rats in New Orleans police headquarters have allegedly been feasting on confiscated evidence, weed, at the as the building has been taken over by mold and cockroaches. And the city's police chief, Ann Kirkpatrick, said that she's had enough of it. The rats are eating our marijuana. They're all high, Kirkpatrick told New Orleans City Council members. These vermin-infested offices have housed New Orleans police since 1968, and she claims officers regularly find rat droppings at their desks. Adam, can you play this video, please, for the good people at home?
Give him a second. Here we go. Oh, there we go.
The uncleanliness is off the charts, but it's even health issues such as mold, heavy mold. In these buildings, rodent infestation. People shouldn't have to come to their office and see rodent drippings on their desk. That is not valuing your people. In the evidence property room that you took a tour of, I stopped you and I said, Councilmember, come back. I want you to see the tray of all of the
roaches.
Major rodents on the floor, the cockroaches, the rats eating our marijuana. They're all high. The fact that officers have nowhere to use a restroom. This is not acceptable. To have your plumbing go completely out in your department. These are basics. And when we say we value our employees, you can't say that and at the same time allow people to work in conditions that are not acceptable.
Okay. So I'm sad. So sad for these officers. Of course, the police department did not immediately respond to an emailed request Wednesday by AP News for more information on how they discovered the marijuana was being eaten by rats or whether any cases were impacted. Because, of course, cases were impacted by this rat infestation and evidence had been compromised. But they are not in Louisiana trying to free any more slaves if they don't have to. More on that in just a second. But first, we're going to follow this money. City officials say that they're taking steps to move the department into a new space, a priority of the police chief since she took office back in October. Kirkpatrick said that 910 officers come to work and find air conditioning and elevators broken, and it's demoralizing to staff, a turnoff to potential recruits coming in for interviews. Say word. The city council's weighing a proposal to spend $7.6 million on a 10-year lease to temporarily relocate the police headquarters to a pair of floors in a high-rise building downtown. The Times-Picayune and the New Orleans Advocate reported that the council's Criminal Justice Committee agreed Monday to advance the leasing proposal to the full city council for a vote, and that's the video that we're seeing here. Kirkpatrick says the rental agreement would give the department time to come up with plans for a new department, permanent headquarters. Ron Harrison, Global Technical Officer Director for Orkin Pest Control, told the Associated Press he has not encountered anyone reporting rats eating their marijuana, though the company has pest control contracts for a number of city officials and local greenhouses that grow marijuana. Harrison said the New Orleans situation is not completely shocking, though, since rats are omnivores and that rats may experience some of the same effects from marijuana as humans, depending on what form it is in. From understanding the biology of the rat and how it's somehow similar to us, I would think based on the amount of concentration they take in, it would be somewhat similar to what humans experience. Okay, let's break this shit down. In all fairness, Kirkpatrick's new to the job trying to fix literal shit that's been going down way before she was police chief. However, as much as some of y'all want to have sympathy for these cops in their decaying stoner rat-infested precinct, I do not. Louisiana police are just modern-day slave catchers. More on that in a second. Kirkpatrick wants to waste $7.6 million of taxpayer money on a 10-year lease for 2 floors of a vacant commercial office building. Really? In this market? Who owns that building? Yarrow? You're a real estate expert, not me, but last I checked, nobody's using traditional office space right now because everybody's working from home or they're in hybrid positions where they're Zooming all the time. How about using that money to fix some of that other shit wrong with Louisiana's slave-ass state correctional system? Y'all think I'm speaking hyperbolically? I am not. Look it up. Slavery is still legal in Louisiana. It's written into their constitution. Back in 2022, it was revealed that Louisiana was among several other American states that for some reason forgot to abolish slavery legally in their constitution, removed that verbiage, making it so from their state constitution standpoint. Louisiana Illuminators Greg LaRose reported last that the lawmaker who suggested an edit to Louisiana's constitution to officially prohibit slavery and involuntary servitude, and then asked voters to reject it, revised his proposal last May, and it was passed unanimously, 98-0 by Louisiana's House, only to be blocked by the state Senate 3 weeks later. So 8 months ago, last June, Louisiana refused to ban slavery. A month later, July 2023, it was reported that Angola prison, Louisiana's finest modern plantation, according to court filings backed by the American Civil Liberties Union, ACLU, National Prison Project, and other civil rights attorneys, revealed juvenile delinquents were being housed in Angola and suffering extended periods of solitary confinement without access to clean water, adequate food, and air conditioning. January 2024, 2 months ago, it was revealed that Angola prisoners were being used as a hidden workforce linked to hundreds of popular food brands, a critical part of food supply chain, loading up unmarked trucks packed with prison-raised cattle. No joke. Men sentenced to hard labor and forced to work for pennies an hour, or a lot of the time, nothing at all. Slavery. Handling rancher duties, shipping out livestock 600 miles away to a Texas slaughterhouse, feeding the supply chains of McDonald's, Walmart, Target, Cargill, and many other household names. And this is just the most recent shit reported about Angola over the last 7 months, not even a full year. I haven't even touched, and nor do we have the time to run through over the last few years. The multiple fires, mold-infested cells, rape, murder, thousands of unreported staff violations. This shit is real-life modern-day slavery and forgotten human beings, many locked up for low-level, non-violent crimes, many weed convictions. They've copped to bullshit plea deals because they ain't got money for cash bail, or they were represented by incompetent and or overworked public defenders. These human lives are being used for labor and thrown away in the year 2024, literally rotting in Louisiana's slave system. And you all want us to care about rats allegedly getting high off of evidence, weed, and shitting on your desk so taxpayers can feed more bodies into the meat grinder. With no proof of this happening or comments on said violent evidence illegally being used to feed the Louisiana slave machine. Y'all want to use taxpayer money to fix this. How about legalizing retail cannabis instead of celebrating the 10th and final medical dispensary opening in Kenner today, which I'm happy, some folks will be able to find relief, but Louisiana is capping its medical system at 10 dispensaries across the whole damn state. Until the state of Louisiana starts making common sense laws to get clean meds to all of its citizens, the cops will keep getting shat on. The Louisiana trap will keep feeding these rats, y'all. And the system's designed to feed itself. Voters in Alabama, Oregon, Tennessee, Vermont all amended their state constitutions in November 2022 to abolish those words and ban involuntary servitude and slavery, following Nebraska and Utah, who finally developed a conscience to pass similar amendments after seeing George Floyd lynched in broad daylight. To the racist cowards in the Louisiana State Senate, all 16 of y'all who voted against finally abolishing slavery in 50 years after it was done federally, I would not be surprised if a quick look into their lineage revealed an unsavory link to slave masters and plantation owners that they've descended from. According to NOLA.com, Louisiana's U.S. Senator John Kennedy, U.S. Senator Bill Cassidy, U.S. Representative Garrett Graves, and U.S. Representative Julia Letlow are linked to slavery. All are descendants of enslavers whose families became and remain wealthy to this day. So is Governor John Bel Edwards. Is this a coincidence? You be the judge. Until y'all start putting money into kicking these slave masters out of office and ending the dirty-ass New Age slave system at its root, I have zero sympathy for the desks of y'all slave-catching ass foot soldiers getting shat on by pothead rats perpetually. My name is Rico Lamite, the dopest dad on the street. For High Night News, I am sad that I followed the money this morning.
Well, you know what? I am happy that he did. Thank God.
Man, oh man, and they're trying to divert all of this money to the rats. This is divert all the attention. It's all about the rat droppings, when really they're just dropping dimes on people out there, literally.
Real talk, Yarrow. You think they're getting a deal? You know, downtown New Orleans, but $8 million for a 10-year lease.
Well,
two floors for the just for the cop shop to move over there. Is that a good investment?
Arm's length transaction that represents market rate? I don't know about that. What I know is that the procedure to protect from contracts being given out without making sure that those prices represent the general market means multiple estimates, multiple locations bidded, and no locations under consideration where the ownership group has any interest in or overlap with that government agency. There's a lot to unpack in this, right? And I think one of the things that we need to talk about, aside from language in or out of antiquated state documents, is the level of accountability that law enforcement has and whether it has civilian review or not. And, you know, cops are like teachers and firefighters. It's like the electric third rail to suggest anything other than to just thank people for their service. And it is worth noting that many of the police officer unions across the country were very resistant to things like body cams that would have allowed for civilian review and checks and balances. And that's always got to be a real concern. And so it's interesting to me because typically the right doesn't like bloated government budgets and says starve the government. But if it's the militarization of civilian law enforcement, typically that frugal budget approach sort of goes out the window when you're on the red side of the conversation, right? The other thing that's interesting to me is most people on the right tend to have a dim view of unions. And yet the police unions across the country are some of the most powerful and influential unions in this country. And in many ways, shielding some of those people in those organizations from civilian oversight and accountability to third-party agencies or investigative arms. And so I look at the Law 360, and I had seen some pretty damning stuff in Louisiana recently where they had rented a warehouse near the downtown police department and then used it as like a black ops off-site location to do various things, and that it was investigated by the FBI. And the truth is, we have this argument in this society that for the most part, law enforcement staff are good people. And we have this argument, but for a few rotten apples, okay? But for a few rotten apples. And then it becomes this thing, well, you know, it's only 0.000 whatever percent of law enforcement people who are not good people, and that they're the ones that get splashed on the headlines, and they're the ones that are giving these otherwise noble departments a bad name. The problem that I have with that often used analogy is, where is the internal accountability behind the thin blue line? And why are cops not ferreting out bad cops? Why are they not stringing them up by their fingernails and making them accountable? And so you can look across this country from Louisiana to Oakland to Los Angeles to New York, and not in our ancient history, but in our recent history, like San Francisco police setting up Jamal Truelove for a murder he didn't commit, and he got out and sued them for $14 million. Who was the DA at that time? I think it was Kamala Harris. But never mind that. Never mind. I digress.
Can I intercede real quick? Because you said some things that were incorrect, Yarrow. The majority of militarized police departments are in liberal communities and cities like San Francisco, who was once led by Kamala Harris, like New York City, who is now being led by Mayor Eric Adams, who also wanted to reestablish the stop and frisk laws, which we know are unconstitutional. I think that it's very unfair to say one side in particular when I believe that the left was screaming defund the police while the whole entire time they fund the militarization of the police departments. This is a both-sided thing. This is not a one-sided thing. Listen, for the people who are watching, I'm not on any political side. I'm just a Donald Trump supporter. I don't trust anyone on any political side, and I believe they play good cop, bad cop. The majority of cases where blacks are treated indifferently by police officers are in liberal communities. The first time I've ever had a gun pointed in my face and or at me was in New York City, ran by liberals, and I was a young man. I didn't have any firearms or anything on me. It wasn't just the red states that were against body cams. It was all states pretty much that were against body cams. And I don't think that it's fair as far as the rats are concerned, because if they're getting high, then the stress of being in the shithole building that they're in is alleviated by at least some good boof weed if they eat enough of it. So I just wanted to top on that too.
Oh man,
rats are stressed out. Nobody's defending.
And that's it. That's all I gotta say.
I'm not suggesting that the militarization of law enforcement across the country was a red or a blue state dynamic.
It's both.
It's absolutely both. So we're agreeing there. What I was suggesting is that you find on the red anti-union sentiment until you get to police unions, and you often find on red this notion of accountability and starve the government through smaller budgets, but for police department budgets. And you're absolutely right that the militarization,
both sides do the same
militarization
thing.
of law enforcement has occurred across the country under red or blue, and a lot of that has been this gifting down of military equipment from our
and predominantly in liberal cities and communities, though, brother.
I mean, not every police department in a 5,000 person town needs a battle tank, right? And yet we've seen this equipment that was typically designed for theaters of operation overseas, and then defense departments are giving this, and next thing you know, everybody's got
they already made it. They already made this stuff for different military operations, and then they want to try to repurpose it so they can recycle it because that's part of the Green New Deal.
Reuse, repurpose, and here's your bazooka, right? No, I get it.
Yeah,
I get it.
I mean, that's just a way of indirectly programming your police officers to think that they're supreme against the people that they're supposed to serve and protect, and instead of serving and protecting them, they actually oppress them, lock them down, and treat them indifferent. This is what happens when you militarize the police.
The other thing that comes up for me with this whole rat thing is, I've been in real estate for a little bit. Rats are productive little creatures. They certainly know how to turn on the Luther Vandross, pour a glass of rosé, and
they know how to steal pizza too in New York.
But the thing is that getting rid of rats in buildings is actually not difficult. So one of the things that comes up for me is, if you're complaining about the rats, how well are you doing the rest of your job? Because your property management skills are not ninja grade, that's for sure. Okay, when you secure all of the entrances and exits to a building and then put out rat traps, and the rats cannot get in and out, eventually you will decimate them quicker than they can procreate, and then you have no rats. So I'm like, how did this police department not hire a third-party consultant for 6 figures to tell them which company was the best one for road remediation? And why did that company not get it done?
Louisiana. Real quick, Dale, I want to hear from you about the evidence. Can we talk about that for a second? Allegedly,
you're talking about the mouse droppings?
Testifying. Yeah, they're testifying. They want this new building. They want $7.6 million to be approved for this new building, but they don't want to talk about the evidence that has been destroyed and or tampered with that they have put.
Hold on, but I wonder if it was actually sold and they're just blaming the rats, saying the rats ate it. Maybe the rats is a scapegoat.
Well,
yeah, maybe they smoked it and they say the rats ate it.
I've represented cops before, and I worked for firms that represented their associations. I've been inside this before, and inside law enforcement, it's a culture. and outside law enforcement's a culture. And if inside law enforcement, they're still thumping black guys' heads, but the culture around them's telling them to stop, you can get something done. But if the culture around them telling them, we don't give a shit if you thump black guys' heads, we need them to go out there and, hoe that row out there, you're never going to get anything accomplished. And my family's from Mississippi, so I understand that if they don't want to do something and it involves black people, you ain't going to get them to do shit. It's just the truth about what happens in these parts of the world. Now, I don't think cops are bad, but if you don't have someone standing over...
Mm-hmm. Oh, what happened?
Censorship.
They're trying to censor you, Dale.
Censorship.
Apparently, they're trying to censor Dale. But Johnny Smash says ninjas learn karate from rats.
Did we check on to see what
Dale,
cameras Dale had?
Dale, you're back.
I'm back.
Yeah. You froze on us for a second.
I criticized the Chinese, so I got,
Oh, that's what that was. Okay. We got to keep this train rolling. We're going to roll into a commercial, and we're going to be right back.